Hello, my jellyfighters. My name is Jim, and this is your Daily Brogue for 18th of July, 2025. Um, so we're talking about AI art still. Um, we got to the point where last time I was talking about the analogy between what happened with the photograph and what is happening with AI art. Maybe that can tell us some things about what's going to happen with AI art. I've not found this lever, so I'll probably need a potion. Incineration and levitation. Okay. All right, so um, what happened with photography is it took the big use case of um out of the picture for artists. In fact, and this is very important. This is not a minor thing. Um, and there is a story that says that in reaction to this, artists said, "Well, what am I good for?" and started doing more experimental work. You can think of Pete Mondrian or Kandinsky or something like that. Um, Assuming I know how to pronounce their names, which I do not. So, um, oh, I got a flail. Thought I had a rapier. Yeah, I hope it's good. I like flails. I especially like magic flails. Um, let's see. So now they start doing their abstract art, and this is something that the photograph cannot do, except with collages and stuff like that. And this is what created modern art. This is a little bit off. There's a lot of history of the photograph that's being ignored. Um, Specifically that it, did not spring full form at some time right? And then replace all portraits. In fact, it still has not replaced all portraits, right? So You know, you only live once. So it's still so. I mean, it's not exactly true, but it has a ring of truth. It's something that artists tell themselves, right? I have friends who've had the same story repeated to me, although possibly they had this. I shouldn't say possibly. I know this is something that their teachers had told them in the past. So this is not a independent assessment, let's say, right? This justification um, pre-existed, all right, and it's been pushed forward. This is not an original idea. It's been pushed forward through basically the people who do this kind of art, and so they can have a way to feel a little bit superior to people who basically just do whatever a let's see where did I leave this thing down here. Anyway, wisdom, not really right now. So they have leather armor or a rapier. So this may be an idea that they had, but other things were happening at the same time. There were social things happening at the same time. The people who started doing art stopped being working class. So prior to the photograph, a painter was an occupation that a poor person could make money off of just by selling paintings, right? Selling these illustrations. This is something that could be done. After it may still have been true, but um, it made life more difficult, right? Because most people don't need those particular services. So not being in need of those particular services means, of course, that they would not purchase them. On top of that, oh, this is +3 leather armor, so this is probably as good as it gets. Not as good as it gets. It could be +3 with a special property that made it even better. So our so one of the things that happened is that simultaneously, this might seem a little odd, while you know this was going on, art started to get a reputation. It started to become, rather than something that was a service, well, it became a calling. It became something that um, made you a kind of high priest. And again, this is another thing that people like, right? They like being high value in this way. That the artist becomes something more than just someone who can put things on paper. He becomes a creative person. The act of creation becomes a major important idea that we have about what makes life good, right? So once we get to the point where creation becomes the thing, then we end up with shattering that, charging. So this changes things for us just a little bit, right? How we are discussing this. We've gone from, so actually, I think what we have to do is we have to remember that we are not dealing with the same people on either side. That prior to the '19th century, we had working class people making art. And then we got to the point where upper class people started making art. Upper middle class people started making art. People more like you and me, probably, than that. And this expression became part of this. Now, this also coincided with the rise of, okay, good. And drop. Drop. is coincided with this other stuff we saw, but it may be completely different to it. So we have to avoid, our job is to avoid being or shit, dead. Um, trying to think about, you have to try to avoid thinking about art the way we think about it and start to think about it as in the way that people thought about it prior to the the worst way to die. Um, punching an acid mountain is the worst way to die. We have to avoid thinking about art the way we think about art today, where we've infused the art with a quasi-religious meaning, and remember that art has a majorly utilitarian value. So the ring reaping. I don't need a ring of reaping. Okay. So this, if we do make that, if we do make that mistake, then it is very important. It is very likely that we will misunderstand what makes art valuable today.